Welcome back to Jalen Jacoby. Jalen, who is in the studio with us right now?
My brother from another mother, Joseph Sikora,
My
is
guy.
in the building. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming
Pleasure
through.
to be
It's
here.
an honor to have you come back to the studio. So, Jalen, I honestly don't think you understand how much Jalen loves the show Power. Like, I've never met anybody as obsessed with a television show.
He knows more about it than I
is on
do. I know
Power.
that's for sure.
It's so much so that we have an entire segment set aside to talk about Power. But
Yes.
we have to start with sports. You know
Okay.
what I mean? I know that you, like me, are a Die Easy fan. So let's just talk about the NBA as a whole. Like, it's pretty early in the season, but what have you enjoyed about this season so far?
That it's kind of the season of dynamic duos. I mean, even if it's in like the pontification of the dynamic duo, like we were just saying that Paul George is out, but it would be the Kawhi, Paul George, AD, LeBron. So you just kind of
Westbrook.
Yep.
Exactly. A Harden
Tommy
man.
Ghost.
Tommy
Yeah.
Ghost. That's the Tommy Ghost, right?
No
Is
doubt,
that
no
well,
doubt.
really the Tommy and the Ghost thing was put into play in the dynamic duos with that opening Clippers Lakers game because it was like it's for domination of the city. Who's going to dominate this city?
Yeah.
Who's got the
Yeah.
bragging
Yeah.
rights? So it was kind of and the underdog won.
Yes.
Love it or hate it, the underdog's on top.
Yeah.
I'm a little shout out to the boss.
No doubt. Fitty.
It's an exciting time, and I think that it feels like the changing of the guard, especially with Golden State kind of like falling back and being pushed to guard. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'm glad the Knicks are starting out strong. In fact, I thought that D Rose on Detroit was going to take it out against the Sixers the other
That was
day,
a good
but
pickup.
it was good.
I was
It's
at
good.
that game.
Yeah,
That was a good pickup.
So we'll see how things progress, but it's an exciting. It's up to the hype. It's time to believe the hype.
So you're a huge star, right? So have you sat courtside yet? Have you gotten that star courtside ticket yet?
Speaking of the Hobbits, hey, Jerry Ferrera sits courtside. I do not sit courtside. Jerry Ferrera is the #1 Knicks fan in New York, other than Spike, and I will say that I do not have Jerry Ferrera seats. I have never sat courtside. No, I sat courtside with Luis Antonio Ramos.
Oh, there you go.
The first time I ever went to a Knicks game.
Well,
bring that up.
we're going to change that. I got you
Really?
at Nets games, Pistons games, Michigan Wolverine games. He don't never want to go
This
out
is how
at
much
7
Jalen loves
o'clock.
Power. Because he never invited me to sit courtside once. We've been doing the show for 8 years. But then you show up, it's like, oh, Tommy's here? Like, oh, it's courtside.
You left off the part that you go to bed at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I did, but it's 7:30. But I also bring up the courtside thing because Jalen Rose was at that game, as he mentioned, and he stood up, walked up to the baseline, and started yelling at the players.
See, but that's different when Jalen Rose does it because when 6'8" stands up, it's different. It's different than when 5'10" stands up. And people are like, they still think he's sitting down, but it's me standing up.
I wasn't yelling at him. I was cheering for him.
There you go.
It's different.
Yeah.
I'm a die-hard fan.
Well, Tommy is very much New Yorker. That's just a character you play. You are from the Chicago area.
I'm from Chicago, the city. Yep.
And you're a Bears fan.
Yep.
And the Bears are kind of at a crossroads right now in the season, kind of like the Lions in that division.
Yeah, the poor Lions, the poor Bears. It's man, I don't get to watch enough Bears games. I tell you, I used to love going to the Bears games when I worked Andy Frayne as well at those games, man. But there's nothing like being at Soldier Field, and I hope I get back before the season's over.
Mitchell Trubisky got a ball for them, but living in Chicago, the one thing I always appreciated is that they still play outside.
When it's freezing cold.
I was upset when the Lions decided to play in the dome. I think it take away the home field advantage.
It does, because you tend to build up that resilience to the weather.
Correct.
Yes. All right, so you're a Chicago kid. You're a young actor. You had an opportunity to work on, I believe it was a commercial with Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan, yeah, me and MJ, we go way back. I was actually
He's texting. He's on the text.
Yeah. It's just like, yo, man, Kobe will never be me. Just make sure you mention that.
But I also actually was assigned to Michael Jordan when he used to go to this club called Les Passages in Chicago.
Ooh.
And so I was just kind of the guy that was around Michael Jordan to make sure nobody necessarily bothered Michael Jordan, and it was always interesting, man. I'll just say that I appreciate Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time. But like, when you're assigned and when you're kind of working and making sure people don't bother him, a lot of people wanted to bother him, and I got to say that Michael would often remind me that I did not do a good job at my job.
I got the big follow-up question right here. Did he tip well?
He didn't tip me So I can't speak to that, but that wasn't my job. My job was just to make sure that I'm sure he tipped the ladies very well.
So you've been hanging out with me too much. You think he's supposed to tip everybody? He should have took care of you.
No, he shouldn't. In fact, because he told me I didn't do a good job, I think he was just reinstating and reinforcing that you don't do a good job, you don't get a tip.
How would he tell you?
He would just be like, "Hey, man, keep these people away from me a little bit. I mean, just a little bit, just so I can breathe."
But yeah, he would be back there. But he was a great guy and a gracious human being. And anytime anybody argues the greatest of all time, I gotta say, you know, even talking to somebody who talked some trash to him on the court.
Yes.
You know, and then Michael had to do what he had to do afterwards.
Oh no, he handled his business. He shut me up and shut the rest of the league up real quick. And talking about hoops, so I follow you on IG, Joseph Sikora 4. Saw you playing hoops.
Yeah.
We got a clip.
We got a little
share
clip.
with you.
Oh boy.
See the form? And there's my question: did you call bank on this shit?
I did.
Okay.
And you know what? Hold on. No, I did. You know what? And I'll tell you this because the truth of it is, it wasn't my first shot. The first shot was a miss, but I was with my guy Designer over there.
Yeah.
Man. So
Underrated artist.
Yeah.
Designer.
Yes.
Underrated artist.
So my guy Pandel over there, he knows that I was saying, and I kept calling glass. And then the second, and in fact, if you listen really close on that clip, you can hear me barely say glass, and then boom.
So playing as much basketball as I have, people obviously can judge how they feel like I play. I feel like Jacoby plays like the Joker in Denver. Who does your game resemble?
Bill Cartwright.
yes.
I mean, you saw the shot right there. I'm like a tiny little white Bill Cartwright.
Bill Cartwright?
Yeah, Bill Cartwright.
Yes.
All right, so we were all kind of the same age, and we all kind of feel that we experienced the golden era of hip hop. Whatever you think that is, that's a subjective opinion. And we asked you your subjective opinion.
I mean, most people.
Yeah, I mean, we know
Yes.
really. Yeah. But,
All facts.
Yeah, we got a young audience, so we have to. We have to.
All right.
Yeah. So we asked you what you thought your favorite top 5 groups in hip hop were.
Now, this is straight off the dome.
This is just yours off the dome.
Boom.
So we're
Freestyle.
asking
Ones that
in
came
no
up.
order. In no order.
No order.
Yeah, you did this very quickly. You know, we appreciate you doing this ahead of time.
This was me and Jalen texting each
texting.
other, and that text came back. I said, "How's that for a quick?" Which was like 5 seconds later. I'm like,
Yeah, I was with them. I asked them to do it, and I was like, "Yo, did you make these up yourself?" We should probably get Joseph involved if he's going to do this.
He did a
So
freestyle.
who do you have as your first of your 5?
Tribe Called Quest. And you know, I mean, God, that Check the Rhyme was just such an anthem for me. But so many songs. I mean, Bonita Applebum. There's so many great songs that they came up with, and the longevity of that career, and then also just Fife and Tip. Great band. And then also I had to put in there is Ultramagnetic MCs.
Oh yeah,
Cool Keith.
See, not
Cool
everyone's got
Keith.
that.
Yo, Cool Keith literally at like what it's like
Bars.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're like, oh man, this guy's rhyming numbers.
He's just
and it works. Somehow it works. Critical Beatdown, come on, like that's another anthem there. And then I said The Roots. I mean, just in terms of influence and I think changing the hip hop scene, I think The Roots made the way for kind of expansion of hip hop in general. So like they were a groundbreaking click for me.
Great.
And then I had to go with De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. I mean, I think that was one of the golden bricks that laid the path to that era of hip hop.
Well put.
And there were so many great tunes in there, and they're still going strong right now. They're still putting out music, and it's still great. And then I had to just think again, which was straight off the dome, just like what were some of these most influential groups? And then I said NWA, because they also changed the scene.
Yes.
And I think that they kind of paved the way for other groups. Bizarrely enough, that they're a West Coast group, but like. I mean, even like mirroring the kind of the gangsta era or the kind of representing the realness of the streets, like in Mobb Deep or Wu-Tang.
Yes.
That it's kind of like that because they preceded them, but it's not so dissimilar in East and West Coast. And there was so much less of a differentiation at that point between East and West Coast. There was none of the mock rivalry or the real rivalry
Yes.
or whatever it was at that time.
Like
too.
NWA represents like a pivot point in hip hop. You know what I mean? Like sort of lyrical content was very different. It was like I'm the best, and all of a sudden it was sort of like, oh no, I'm gonna be a diary for what's happening around me, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there's some of that before then, but NWA did that. And one thing that we always say in this show is, you know, we work in sports, so lists are always involved. And one thing we've never done ever in the 8 years of this program is accurately done a list the first time we do it. You know what I mean? We always leave somebody off. We'll be talking about like the top 5 in the NBA history. Leave off like Kareem or something.
Yeah.
So we do this all the time. So who are some of the other groups after you texted Jalen in 5 seconds? You were like, ooh.
Yeah, some of the other honorable mentions. I gotta say, a big shout out to G Unit.
No doubt.
Then I said Cypress Hill.
Yep.
That's a really
even
good
just
one.
go back to House of Pain.
The Locks.
Thank you.
Sure, Jungle Brothers.
Wu-Tang needs to mention.
Wu-Tang, 100%.
And so a lot of people don't consider this a group, but their group is Outkast.
Outkast,
You know,
forget
like,
it.
yes, that's
Andre
one of the
3000.
things.
Andre 3000 is one of the top 5 MCs of all time, too.
In your opinion.
Big Boy-
In your opinion.
Well,
In
I-
your opinion.
you're
In your
absolutely-
opinion.
Well, if we get there too, I mean, lyrically, the guy was just nice. So you know,
Yes. Public Enemy.
Public
Oh, yeah.
Enemy. Oh my
See,
God,
it's so hard to make a
unbelievable.
list. You know what I mean? It's so hard to make a list off the top. We
then
get
you
it
can-
wrong every time.
But you can also go into like some of the stuff like the remember the Fushnik?
Yes,
They-
of
that-
course.
Lots
Like,
boob.
yeah,
We ain't
yeah.
got nothing to
Yeah,
prove.
What about- that's how Shaq started his rap career. He's like, give me the Fushnickets.
That's right. That's
give
right.
me the Fushnickets.
Exactly.
I got a mic drop one for both of y'all.
Uh-oh.
The Beastie Boys.
The Beastie
Oh,
Boys.
yes.
Come
Oh,
on.
they are right behind me in the studio. Oh, man. Oh, no. I'm so upset with I'm going to go punch myself in the face.
But that's your point, though. You can
Yes.
do a list and leave off Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, leave off Magic
Exactly.
Johnson when you're rushing because it's just so much greatness. But that's what makes it the golden era. And how about this? That, to me, is what's missing in hip-hop today. I see cliques. I see crews.
Labels.
I see labels, but not
Well,
groups.
that's one of the problem things that Jacoby was just saying too, is that everybody's saying I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, and that's what's reflecting. So you can't be a group when you're just like I'm the best. It's not it's not unlike basketball. I mean, AD wouldn't be AD's last game where he finally nobody had done the 40-20 since Shaq, right? But that's because Kobe participated in that. That's because LeBron allowed that to happen in some capacity. Otherwise, you got to do that. So you got to be in more. It's more of a team mentality when you're in a group.
EPMD, Eric B. and Rakim.
Come on.
Smith and
I don't know
Wesson,
about
please.
Eric B. and Rakim if you can
I was
consider
gonna
that.
go. I was
Yeah,
gonna-
no,
you
you
can't do that,
You
DJ.
can't do that.
That's tough.
If only one guy has a mic. No. So look at Joseph, like transitioning from hip hop to sports, making analogies. Man, you're such a natural at this.
Yeah, right,
You're
yeah,
such
yeah.
a natural at this. So Jalen's upset. You know why Jalen's upset?
Why?
You've been here for like 10 minutes and we haven't talked about power yet.
Hey.
We're gonna finally have a full segment where Jalen's just gonna talk about power. And spoiler alert, I'm telling you right now, Jalen's gonna spoil some plot lines right after this.